This video shows the final Phase 2 modifications and upgrades made to our 2018 Eureka camper. I had been asked what the difference in fuel economy was with the truck between carrying the Eureka versus the much heavier and larger Adventurer 80RB. Initially, driving back from the factory with the camper, I was a bit disappointed in that the difference in fuel economy wasn't substantial. But then it was pointed out to me that I have to drive it at the same slower pace that I had been driving with the Adventurer to get an apples-to-apples comparison. I did see that the truck by itself, with no camper at all, the best it could do was 16.8 miles per gallon. With the Eureka on the truck and fully loaded, coming back from Florida, we did register nearly a 300-mile stretch where we achieved 15.1 miles per gallon. This was an increase of 1.2 miles per gallon over the Adventurer. My first task at hand was to reduce the amount of heat in the cabin due to the large windows and the two vents on the roof. I found that I could only reduce the inside cabin temperature with the air conditioning after running it for 2 hours of about 22 degrees. So I added double-sided reflectix to both the side windows. They actually reduced the cabin temperature by an additional 3 degrees, with the maximum cooling now down to 25. The vents on the roof, although they were smoke colored, they were actually quite clear, and as you can see, they let in a lot of heat and a lot of light. I didn't want that, so I decided to do something about it. I removed the vent lids from both vents, covered the openings, and spray painted the inside of the vent lids with a metallic silver reflective paint. As you can see now, the covering is much different. This is the front vent before painting in the closed position, and this is the front vent after painting in the closed position. This is the rear vent before painting in the closed position, and the rear vent after painting. It makes a huge difference. That dropped the temperature an additional 2 degrees, which now I've reduced the temperature 27 degrees below the ambient. On the faucet for the freshwater tank is functionally useless. Each stroke of the handle produces a slug of water, but water does not come out at a constant rate, so you can't wash your hands or rinse anything. It's basically a useless faucet. So I removed it. I added a nice chrome faucet with a high-rise spigot. I made a base plate to cover the hole and mounted the faucet to it. I added a switch at the top of the electrical panel to run a water pump. I wired it through an unused circuit on the converter, ran wires from the converter underneath the stepway there and into the compartment where the water is stored. I added dividers on the floor to separate two tanks, and I doubled the capacity of the original camper. Now the capacity is 12 gallons. I added the Seaflo water pump into a T-fitting, running to the sink and also through the strainer, drawing water through a strainer. The top of the T runs to a shutoff valve that is then connected to a hose long enough to reach outside where I could hook up an outside shower. I can store the shower head and the shower hose in the compartment with everything right there. The pump switch has a light so you can tell when the pump is on. It's important to know that it's on because you want to make sure it's turned off if you leave the camper. This is a huge improvement over the slug of water, each hand stroke with one hand, over the existing pump. The clear vinyl tubing is rated at 45 psi, where the water pump is set at a maximum of 30. The holder for the shower head is mounted below the air conditioning. That basically sets it about 6 feet 2 inches when the camper's on the truck. So it's well above our heads and yet easy enough to reach. The shower head has a 3-position lever for shower, for rinse, and shut off. Has a good solid stream, so rinsing your hair should be easy. The next item on my list was a door upgrade. The frosted glass in the door window is not really a window. It serves two purposes. One is to let light and heat in, and that's about it. You can't see out of it, so it's not really a window. So I taped off the outer frame so it wouldn't fall out, and I removed the inside frame and the glass. I had a piece of tempered glass filmed to 22%, and I replaced the frosted glass with this replacement glass. Also didn't like the idea that because you couldn't see through the frosted glass, if someone came knocking at your door at night, you couldn't look out to see who it was or what it was. So I wanted to be able to look out and check who was outside. I also wanted to look out and be able to see the scenery behind the camper when we were camped. Final tightening was done by hand, just to make sure they were tight without over tightening. From about 4 feet away, you can't see in the camper at all in daytime, even with the lights on. From 1 inch away, if you put your face up against it, all you see is a reflection. You still can't see in the camper, even with right there. The view outside is fine. You can see the scenery, you can see what's going on. But because you can see in the camper at night, if you have the lights on, I added a roller blind. It's a 76-inch long blind, so it easily covers all of the light areas in the door and blocks off, so at nighttime nobody can see in. Made a few small mods to the interior. The pantry door had one hasp in the center. I added a top and bottom latch to more secure it. I didn't like the curtains that came with the camper, and so we had blackout curtains made. We bought the material as drapes and then had a sewing shop custom make them to size for us. They not only function better, they actually are made as blackout curtains. This is pretty much it. As far as we're concerned, the camper is done, ready to go camping.